Hello, hello. Here we are. We are on our final of 6 Own Your Genius sessions. This has been so much fun. And we have 2 very extraordinary women joining us today, and I cannot wait to introduce you to them. This series is so much fun because it's all about putting the voices of the extraordinary women in my community out into the world in bigger ways, because they're already doing it. They're already getting out and making a difference with the work that they're doing. And when I talk about change maker women, it's really fun to see the ripple effect that happens when all the people in my community are going out and really serving their communities. And one of the things that I'm on a mission to do is to really raise up the voices of 1 million women around the world. And it's the ripple effect, right? It's the ripple effect of what really takes place. And it's so much fun to see how people are making a difference with their stories, with their voices, with their wisdom. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So today we have Tara McFarland joining us, and her company is Create Conversations. And she is a former engineer who is helping bridge thinking with intuition and helping others do the same. And we have Julie Dorough, who is a videographer and Metamedia, and the founder of Metamedia. And she is building impact-driven narratives through documentary-style videos. So, ladies, welcome, and I'm so glad you're here.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you bet. I'm glad to have you guys here. Let's start with you, Julie. Let's dig into, so tell us a little bit about you. Tell us more about the work you're doing and tell us who you are.
Okay. Well, my company is Metamedia. That's I guess an easy place to start.
Yeah.
I do video. I produce videos, direct, in some cases, write. Really do everything. I actually started. I've been doing some type of video or in broadcast media my entire career. I was lucky that when I was in college, I happened to take a television production class and really fell in love. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I loved it. And my first internship was at Channel 12 here in Denver, where I got to, I had like about a 5-minute tutorial on how to work this camera, and I got to go out and be the director and videographer for this show called Teletoons. And
oh my gosh,
do you remember that? Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
Here, for those that have been in Denver for a while and are around my age, it was a video music show that aired. At the time, it aired 6 nights a week, and there was zero budget. It was all volunteers and interns. But it had like great ratings and kind of a cult following. And I got to work with the VJs, video hosts.
The VJs.
Introducing music. It was like music videos. And then we also hit the road and interviewed a lot of bands and filmed a lot of bands. So that was super fun for me because it was complete, like whatever I want to do, complete creative control. And I got to direct the talent, and we just did a lot of fun stuff. So that was kind of my first experience. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I have to get a job. And I ended up doing cable broadcasting for a long time and several different things within there. And I eventually, that's where I learned a lot of strategy and just built up my technical know-how and built teams and got to work on new products and launching channels and, new initiatives, starting things like at the very beginning when video on demand didn't exist, launching some of the first networks on that and really getting kind of a totally different type of experience. And eventually I got back into creative and started producing again. And that felt, as much as I liked the other stuff, it felt really like where I needed to be. I felt like I could prove myself with all the technical know-how. Then I went back into producing and creative and produced and directed 2 different entertainment type shows with hosts and studios. I did that for about 10 years and did some other stuff in between videos, business videos, couple programs, promos, commercials.
So when did you start Metamedia?
So I started Metamedia when I worked for a different production company as a contractor, and I needed to have an LLC, and that was in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really more of a freelancer, and it wasn't until, and I was still doing some other things on the side, but I had a full-time job producing this show. It wasn't until the pandemic when, just overnight, with no warning, the show I was working on, literally the plug was pulled, and they're like, "We're done. We can't film. We're in a lockdown. We can't do the show anymore." And whatever, let's just cancel it.
Yeah.
That kind of happens in the corporate world. Like, let's just stop doing this. And so, me, along with everyone I was working with, we were all just kind of left like, okay, now what? It so happened that I was already in the back of my mind ready to make a transition. I was at that place where I knew I had like an incredible opportunity doing the work that I was doing and playing such a big role in the creative and writing and directing and everything I wanted to do, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, and I was ready to move on anyway. So I really took that as the opportunity to really transition Metamedia from just sort of an LLC that I was receiving a paycheck from and doing freelance work with, to starting a business and doing more of what I felt like I was called to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you think about what you're called to do today, what is that? I mean, what's the big calling? What's calling to you?
I think just working on really impactful projects. And that means working with people, primarily women, who are just doing, everything you're doing with women, extraordinary things, and they're thought leaders, and they're building new content, and they're approaching life or their business in a different way, and they're ready to get a message out there. That's the stuff that really speaks to me, or something maybe esoteric. It's something different. That's the stuff I really like. I've done a lot of corporate stuff and corporate videos. But what really sings to me is getting to hear the amazing things that other people are doing. And I have this incredible, job where I get to talk to so many different people and hear what they're doing and hear what lights them up. And that, to me, is so exciting. So I just want to keep moving forward with that and see where it takes me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you have such a beautiful opportunity to help. I mean, with all of the background that you have in the world of production and creating video, you bring to us such a gift into how you can really help direct us right into being. So we just did this week. It was really fun. In fact, both Tara and I were there. We got to do some video with Julie. And so she had her whole production team there, filming us, and she's helping us through the video and, through the good and the bad and the ugly, all of it. Right. She was really, really good to be able to, and she can see the picture and knows how to ask the right questions to help guide us and get us going in the right direction. So it was really fun to get to experience your work in that way and see how that all, how it's all unfolding for us.
Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I guess that's one of the things that, I realized when I was talking myself into like, hey, you can do this. You can go out on your own and build your own business. You don't have to work for somebody. Those were some of the feedback I was getting, was that, hey, I've done some video shoots, but this felt totally different. And you supported me in a way that I've never been supported, or you asked the questions, or you listened. Just that sort of listening. You're not just showing up and pressing the record button, kind of walking away. So I knew that I just did that instinctively, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that I was approaching things in a different way, and I've just been trying to even make experiences better, and of course, trying to make on the back end side, making it smoother and being able to sort of build a business that is sustainable, but also
Yeah.
really meaningful
And
and impactful.
yeah, and one of the things I mean, so you're definitely helping a lot of women in this space raise their voice up, raise their message up, put their words out into the world. You also have been, I mean, I want to make sure that you are really claiming what you've done in this last year as far as documentaries and that sort of thing as well. So share a little bit about your work on that side.
Currently right now, I've done a few things. I think after once I stopped working on the promotional show, entertainment show that I was doing, I really kind of went through this like say yes to everything, try new things. And honestly, I think I said yes to too much. But some of the interesting stuff that I got to do just within the last year is I'm currently running the managing and overseeing all the post-production for 2 local rom-com made for TV movies that are being filmed or were filmed here right in Colorado, mainly in Colorado Springs area up to Denver. So that's been really nice. First of all, I have to say it's always so cool. I get so excited when production comes here to Colorado because
Mm-hmm.
we've had so many things leave over the years, and there's not a lot of opportunity for people who want that type of work. You know, they feel like they have to move, or we don't have a big enough tax incentive. So to have some local production here is just so exciting. So I got the opportunity to oversee the post-production on those 2 films, and that's been a really great learning experience
Mm-hmm.
because I get to sit with seasoned, EPs and the director and hear why he made the decisions he made and the cameras he chose, and all of that is really great because I just think that's something that one day I could be doing something at that level, and I just feel so blessed to be like learning some new stuff and learning new tricks, and it's really exciting. The other thing I did that over the last year was produce a short program, well, 30-minute program for PBS, which was a documentary on quantum computing
It
here.
was such a good show too. What's the name of it? Because I went and watched it and it was so good. That's a silly question, huh? Right?
I know, and I forgot.
Put you on the spot.
State of quantum. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, that's how whirlwind. I feel.
Well,
like
you'll have to go put it in the comments afterwards so that people can go check it out because it was really good.
Yeah, it's really intimidating working with quantum scientists, like,
Yeah.
that are just, oh my gosh. I mean, I would have to be like, okay, can you explain that at a level that I could understand? I've done a lot of work with scientists as well. I did a huge series for RNA scientists at the Anschutz campus. And, on one hand, I'm like, oh, I have no business producing these videos. But on the other hand, I know enough to know that like, I need to make sense of all this for people like me who have no idea, what they're doing and all of their research. So if I can just kind of put it in that perspective, I can calm down and be like, okay, let's take all this information and break it down to kind of the base level so that so I can understand and, the viewers can understand. So that's
and the reason I really want to point this out, because for those of us who are female entrepreneurs putting our voice out into the world, I want you to really understand the level of Julie's expertise, right? I mean, this is not somebody who just started doing video. I mean, she's got it's so entrenched for so many years, and you've done some really big projects. So I feel very blessed to get to work with you, as your client. And so that's been fun I got to be your client. You've got to be my client. And that's a lot of fun. I love when I can make that happen with my clients. So tell us, what brought you into the mastermind program?
Oh, well, that's a fun story too, because you hired me to stream during the well, we're still in the pandemic, I suppose, but when we were in lockdown, you had to take your Ignite event virtual. Mm-hmm. And me and my team did the technical aspect of that. And
which was fantastic. Oh my God, I was so well taken care of.
Oh, thank you. So I wasn't familiar with you, but I had heard a lot of people be like, "Oh, you're gonna work with her. She's the shit, like the real deal." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And as we started planning the event, I got a sneak peek of some of your material. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I like this. This is cool." And then, during the event, it was like 2.5 days, a 2.5 day streaming event, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And somebody just said it was the best virtual event I have attended. I like that. Thank you, whoever that is.
It was really fun. But I was just so taken by the whole experience, by you and your wisdom and your teachings, and then the community. I spent a lot of time. I always feel like such a stalker, but I spent a lot of time looking at everyone's faces. Everyone had their cameras on. Everyone was engaged. People were chatting and talking, and I got this inside perspective of like what your community is like and who's in it and who you are. And I was just like, by the end of it, I was like, I got to do this. I got to join the group. I just loved it. And it was one of those things. It wasn't just, I wasn't just pressing the buttons and like, hey, let's switch to this camera. Let's switch to that camera. I never do that. I'm not that type of person anyway, but I was exceptionally engaged. Just really excited. I had been, thinking, getting a coach was on my list for a very long time. And then I was like, oh, well, thank you. Here it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
And what's changed for you since you joined us?
I think some of it has just been validation, right? Mm-hmm. Of knowing like, oh, okay, I knew I was doing things differently, couldn't quite put a finger on it. And now I'm with all these other women that are approaching their businesses in a more meaningful and impactful way, thanks to you. And it's that, I think that community, just being in that community and realizing, there is a different way to do this. And then, a lot of that is also just being slowly kind of pushed and encouraged and all the feedback. It's been really good. Sometimes, I think when it comes to creative in my work in the spot, I take bold moves, but I think the bigger picture of my business and who I am, I'm kind of like, you got to slow cook things for me. Just real, so it's just like baby steps, nudges, and eventually, I get there. So,
well, I think the big thing for you is you're so amazing behind the camera, and for you, it's the step out in front of the camera.
Yeah, totally. I gotta.
And it's always the journey, right? I mean, that's always for all of us, and that's the beauty of it. Is stepping in front of the camera is always the big step. So.
Yeah, that's why I hope that with everyone I work with, I have a lot of grace and patience, because I'm like, hey, you
have a lot of patience.
Yeah, I haven't even really done that to that extent, and so I'm always very just very proud of people when they get in front of the camera.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. We'll come back to you on a second round here. Let's move over to Tara. Tara, tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Cammie. And I love hearing all this stuff from Julie, because she was amazing this week when she was helping me as I stared into a camera or just had like too much equipment around me and I completely froze.
Yeah, and it's so funny because this is really easy to me.
Yeah.
But when you have like two cameras on you and all the lights and you're there, like, and it's got to come from you, it's a very different experience.
She's
right?
Like, soul speaks it, come from the heart. And I was like, I thought I was. And she's like, well, you're hitting all the points. Let's start again. She was a wonderful coach through all of that, as I start to branch out into what I'm doing. So like Cammie said, I'm a former engineer. I just left.
I guess you are still an engineer.
I know everyone keeps telling me, well, you're always an engineer, especially because I was in my career for 24 years.
Yeah.
But I finally left my job last November, and really, yeah. But I burned out completely in my career in like 2018. And I was lucky enough to be in a place where I was having a lot of trouble with communicating. It had to do with like, I had switched from a technical to design team lead, like somebody really leading like the designs, into a program manager position where all of a sudden I had these projects that were multidisciplinary and like multi-office, and I was one of the leaders. And I couldn't understand why, if we were all the same team on the same project, why people weren't getting their work done. And I really didn't know how to communicate or to draw any of that out of people without coming across in a certain way, which, as a woman in a male dominated industry, they say something different if you're assertive.
Yeah.
They call you different names and say the men doing the exact same thing or behaving the same way. So that was actually like, it was a really rough, when I did that, I think it was about 3 years into that, when I finally just like, I was getting a lot of negative feedback when I hadn't gotten negative feedback before in my career, at least not to that level. It was, it was getting the attention of higher management. And I had all this stuff around like, I don't know, like I didn't know what to do. I just knew that something wasn't right. But I was lucky enough that when that happened, and I got to the point where I could not go on anymore in this project. I literally left like the penultimate project of my career. If I gotten through this, it was a $500 million project. To me at that time, it was like, prove my worth.
Right.
Prove that I can like do this.
Prove
and
prove
keep
it.
Moving up. Yeah. Tons of proving. But I was lucky enough. They supported me. So like I basically hit the wall. I burned out, but I didn't really know what to do. And so they allowed me to go part-time while I figured out what was going on.
Yeah.
And I stayed like in that space for the next 3 years or so until finally last November, being able to say, okay, now I know what I want to do for my next career and leave. So really.
So tell us about the work you're doing today.
So what I'm doing today is helping people really guide, or helping people who have an idea, who maybe are stuck in maybe the same way I was, like kind of know something needs to change, wants to take action, but they really don't know what the step is. Or even if like they have an idea that they need to work on career development, or they want to create a business based around their expertise, like consulting or something like that. So I really help people connect head to heart and just tap into that inner intuition and inner guidance, because we all have the knowledge, and it's getting that connection that helps draw out really what are the steps to be taking.
Yeah. And so
what are you creating?
When you're helping people get a connection, and so I know you work a lot with people who are in technical fields, who are the engineers, who, have that very linear way of thinking. You're helping them tap into something that they may not necessarily even know exists for themselves. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting space to be. And I can say I've been there.
Well, and that's why you're going to why you have the credibility in that space, right?
Right. So there's a level of almost translation that has to happen, because a lot of people they're not used to this idea of dropping in and slowing down and becoming very present to what's actually happening like inside. And one of the things that I bring to my coaching is this idea that like, I'm going to hold you accountable, but I'm almost holding you accountable to learn how to be still and be present. And it's a little bit of a different way, I think, because I know I'm oriented around action. And at the same time, you can't take the actions until like you can really hone in on what is it. And so, the way that I do that is I use, when I start coaching with people, we start talking about intuition like right away, like what it is. And a lot of times what happens is I can ask a few questions and all of a sudden the light bulb goes on, and I've got like one client who says, "Is that why I'll be thinking about somebody and then they call me?" And I was like, "Yes,
Yes.
that's exactly what's happening, because
Right.
it's all energy."
Right.
And then they start to notice that this keeps happening. Oh,
Right.
I was thinking about, I need to talk to so-and-so. And then out of the blue, she texted me. And I was like, well, look at that.
Yeah.
Right. So it is a lot about like starting to recognize where sort of the energy pulls you.
Yeah.
And then being able to like sort of layer on top of that the actions to take.
Yeah. So let's talk about vulnerability, because I know this is an important part of your work. Tell us a little bit more about why that's so important.
So vulnerability for me is really important, because I will tell you, 5 years ago, I thought it was like a 4-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like, don't let them see you sweat. Again, a lot of that proving, don't admit when I don't know how to do something. And it wasn't until I burned out and I literally reached out to somebody who I didn't really know that well, but I kind of had the sense that I think he can help me with whatever just happened to me, which turned out to be like full-blown spiritual awakening. And that was when things really started to change, because he would encourage me. And I think it's really funny that it was a man, because he would encourage me to talk about my feelings. And I would be like, no,
I don't really want to talk about feelings.
I don't have feelings. But really what happened was like, he was able to draw out of, like, he created this space for me to be able to like start experiment. I used to call him my vulnerability crash test dummy, right? Like, I would experiment with like, okay, if I like word vomit all this stuff and he's still supportive, I guess that's good. Or he's not like, oh my God, that was too much, or you're too much, because I had a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah. All the stories.
And it was a lot of practice. And what I found was the more that I was vulnerable, the more people are actually drawn to me. And the more that I'm vulnerable and can just flow with whatever's going on, and just say like, well, I'm not an expert either. I'm continually learning. And
we all are, by the way.
Right? Then like there's been such a shift in my life. Like I feel almost like a completely different person.
Yeah.
But if you it's
an awakening of the same person within, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It really isn't about changing. It was really about like shedding all of this, all the stories, all the conditioning, all the stuff I had just taken on, throughout my entire life, in terms of what it meant to succeed in life, or, it's a really interesting space to be in, because I've run into this a couple of times with people, and I know I was there too, where there's a certain point where you feel like you have to change. Like I felt like I have to change me, but it really wasn't about changing me. It was really about like getting to the core of who I am, and then being okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the other part about that I've really seen and loved seeing what's birthed, that's really birthed from you, is your voice and sharing your vulnerability through this journey, right? So, I mean, you have been in a very professional role, put that box around you of the professional role that you have been in for so long. And then you started getting vulnerable, and I mean, you've shared videos, what's that experience been like?
Almost every time I feel like I'm going to throw up. And that was one of the jokes between me and my mentor was, if I feel like throwing up, I probably should go do the thing. That was the signal that I was pushing the envelope for me. So what's interesting about that is that I had been very vulnerable for very long on an anonymous blog.
Oh,
so really it had been like, I had blogged for like 10 years through an infertility and adoption journey. I had a very small amount of readership, like did not use my name. You didn't know where I lived, none of that. But what I realized was that the speaking thing, when I start to speak, people actually pay attention.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I need to do more of this. And so really that's been pushing the envelope for me. Like, like breaking out of the box, because I think, you know, I was really raised and I mean, just the profession I found myself in was really about putting ourselves into this tiny little box that's basically made for one type of person, and breaking out of that and saying, well, wait a second, but I have all these other qualities, or I have all these other stories that people can relate to, or, you know, it's okay to be emotional. Like I had to learn that too. That has been like what really has propelled me forward. And it's essentially like forcing myself to speak out loud has really helped move a lot of that. To where like it's not as scary anymore. But it took me a long time to even admit I was going through a spiritual awakening.
Right.
Or that I feel energy.
The engineer going through a spiritual awakening, right? I mean, that's the fun dichotomy of that. And it's beautiful. And that's the growth that happens for it. So if the whole world could hear one message from you, what would that be?
That would be hands down, your vulnerability shows you who you are. Because when you are vulnerable, that's really you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. So what brought you into the mastermind?
Well, I was at a speaking workshop.
That's right. Our Soul Speaks.
I was at Soul Speaks. Yes. I had done Soul Speaks previously, and I don't even remember why I checked spam, but I checked spam a couple of weeks before, and I had an email from Paula, who was my contact through Soul Speaks. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I know I'm supposed to speak more, so this sounds like a good idea. I should go to this weekend. So that's where I met you, because I did not know. I had registered an LLC at this point, but I was just beginning to try to figure out what my message is. And it was in that workshop where, you know, you demonstrated some of what you do in the mastermind about branding and messaging and really pulling out of us like who we are and what our message is, where I knew I was going to work with you. Now, what was funny was it was like a month later that I started working with you. And at the time I thought, maybe in 6 months or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really what it was I needed to learn how to run a business. I mean, the last 15 years of my career have been in government. Like I don't know anything. This is like a completely different world. And so I really felt like the mastermind helped me to, you know, for one thing, be surrounded by other entrepreneurs and other women who can understand when I get on a call and say something like, I just can't do it, or I can't get, you know, I'm not sure what my message is, or I'm frustrated or whatever, you know, and like
and that's part of the journey, right?
Yeah. It's just like, everyone's like, yes. And, you know, that's what happens. This is how this goes. And really learning that none of this really is linear.
Yeah.
Just breaking out of that linear thinking. Like that's been amazing to be in just in a group of people who like understand that piece of
it's interesting because I've actually been terming that it's that spiral journey of an entrepreneur, right? It is like, it's just, we grow and we evolve and we grow and we evolve, and you know we're moving in with that, but it's the community certainly is a big part of that to be able to help lead us through that. So that's awesome. So building a business and taking the risks that you've taken and getting vulnerable in this year and leaving the job last year, you know, a lot of energy into, oh my gosh, where am I going? You know, mindset stuff associated with all of this. How have you taken care of yourself through all of this?
Oh, I meditate almost every single day. Like that has become something that has to be done for me to stay grounded. And meditation for me, it really did pick up when I left my job. Like when I left my job, and it was like I finally let go of the so-called safety net of having at least some regular income coming in the door in my part-time work, was when I realized, like, if I don't stay grounded and centered, then it's not going to work for me. So meditation is huge. Understanding how much rest I need. And that's actually a lot more rest than I thought. I had been really just the proverbial burning candles at both ends all the time.
Yeah.
And when it's nice out, I get out and walk. I'm like a a fair weather walker.
Oh, me too.
Walker in the winter.
You are not going to find me walking out in the wintertime, but right now I'm like, oh, it's so lovely out.
I know. Right now I'm very excited to take dogs on walks. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. What's a pearl of wisdom for our listeners that you'd like to leave them with?
Oh, a pearl of wisdom. I would say that if there is something that you have an idea for, start journaling it out.
Ooh, yeah.
Really, really start to like sit down and just let all the ideas come out, because you never know. You might find your next career in it.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Right. That's exactly how mine came out, right? When it was in the journaling. It's definitely a good thing. In fact, I was thinking this morning, I really need to have my VA go back and capture all the pearls of wisdom from these last 2 weeks, because they've all been really, really good. So I think we're going to have to do that so we can share that. Where can people learn more about you and your work?
My website is createconversationllc.com. That's a great place just to go. That has all my information on it, all the links to all my other social media and things like that.
Okay. And what are you most excited about that's coming out for you?
I'm most excited this year to like really dive in and work on building my business and like really connecting with a lot more people. That's my main.
Because you've found such good clarity in who you serve and how you're serving them, even just in the last few months. So, I'm excited. And you got to do a workshop last week, which was amazing.
I did. That was the very first time I've ever put on a workshop as a trainer, and it went so well. And I've gotten great feedback, and it always makes me happy to hear people say, I've heard that stuff before, because it was around team dynamics and communication and DISC personality, behavioral styles. A lot of people in corporate world have heard of all that. But it was awesome to hear people say, but you made me think about it in a different way. And I was like, yes, because that is what it's all about. We just need to hear it differently sometimes.
Yeah. And what's your hope for the world?
Oh, my hope for the world is that people learn that they can bring all of themselves to work. And that we don't have to stay in these tiny little boxes. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you. Julie, what is, how are you showing up for yourself right now? How are you taking care of yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, it's different things in different seasons or, months. So right now for me also it's spring, and, my spring morning ritual is going outside, drinking my coffee without my phone, and sitting there and shutting my eyes and just drinking in the energy of the sun. And really just starting my day just with that calmness and sitting there before I start, the frantic of like, what do I need to do today? Blah, blah, blah. And that's been really helpful. And the same thing, like I would not do that in the winter. But it's nice out right now. In the winter, I got to find other things to do. But I just find that, I think we all gravitate to what we need at that moment. And that goes for anything, like the podcasts we're listening to, or the content we're digesting in some way, or the people we're hanging around with. Sometimes you need something, spiritual. Sometimes you just want some marketing advice, sometimes, it just really depends for me. And I really just try to listen to that. And then overall, I have been, not consistently, but I really do like to meditate or tap. I like tapping too. Sometimes if I can't
tapping can be great.
Yeah. If I can't calm my mind, I find tapping is really helpful, because you're kind of doing something. And saying something. And a lot of times that helps me. So yeah, I think first and foremost, I just like to listen, try to tap into what I need at that moment.
Yeah, that's just pausing in any given moment. It's so good. So good. And what about a pearl of wisdom for for us?
I think, with all of the noise and the rules of marketing and what you should do and how to create a successful business or life or be fit or whatever, I think just listening to yourself and being honest and authentic and saying, hey, that might have worked for someone but I know for me I need to do this, or I think what would serve me the most right now is to do this or to not do this. And I think I just talk to so many people that are like, oh, I feel like I should be doing this, or I feel like I should be doing this. I had two clients on different occasions, but very close to each other, saying, hey, people are doing these reels on Instagram and they're dancing on their reels. I think I should be doing that. And I'm like, well, if you want to, like, if that feels good to you, absolutely. But if it doesn't, please do not do that.
Yeah. Exactly. Somehow, I don't think it's bringing any of us anything into our business if we get onto Instagram and twerk our little butts off or big butts off or whatever, right?
Right.
That's not bringing me any business. So, yeah.
I mean, I could think of one person in our group, with the exception, and I'm sure there's more. If Charisse wants to do it, she should be doing it.
Charisse should do it because she's got that. I mean, she's a national belly dancer, right? So
yeah, but she moves, and in fact, she was at that first Ignite, I believe, or was it?
She did. Yeah, she did teach.
I was like, oh my word, like this is awesome. So yes, that resonates with her, right? But don't force yourself into things that just don't feel right or the timing isn't right. So
true. So true. That's a great one. So where can people learn more about you and your work?
I have a website, metamediacreative.com. That's meta with 2 T's, and way before, Facebook changed their whole thing to Meta.
Oh, that's right. I never thought of that connection. I missed that.
Too bad I have 2 T's. I was hoping they'd, buy me out or something. But I have 2 T's. They have 1 T. So that's a good place to get in contact me. But honestly, if you want to learn more, message me and let's talk. That's the best way. I don't have a ton of information on my website. I have some of my work. Everything needs to be updated. So just reach out.
Reach out to either of them. Did you guys have I didn't ask you guys if you guys have a gift for any of our listeners that you wanted to extend.
I'm hoping, no, I do not right now. I'm hoping to do another event. I feel like that's a good way to work with a lot of women at a cost-effective rate, is to kind of put on these events and people can come in and try, if they want to do it, they can try.
Yeah. So definitely start following you so that they'll be in touch with that. And if they want to know more about your work in general, just reach out to Julie, and both Julie and Tara can go out and in the comments, share their contact information as well there. Tara, did you have something that you wanted to extend?
I mean, I have like a 30-minute discovery call that we can do that. If you just reach out to me via my website, I would love to just get on the phone and talk.
Awesome. Julie, what's your hope for the world?
I think, my hope, I just hope that collectively we can, tap into the love that all of us hold within ourselves and put that energy out there, because I think there needs to be so much healing and transformation right now. And I think if everyone puts that out there and is just moving forward with the best of intentions for themselves and everyone involved, we'll slowly
totally agree. So good. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun to have both of you on today. And thank you to all who are tuning in today, who are tuning in on the replays. And we really appreciate you joining us, and reach out to all these amazing women that I have had the opportunity to share with you over the last 2 weeks. It's one of my favorite things to do all year long. And if you guys are really wishing you were part of a community like this, reach out to me. Let's jump on a call. Let's talk about it. If one of our mastermind programs really feels like a fit for you. So we are going to sign off, and thank you all for joining us.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.